Going live, going live. Let me just open the. And we're live. Okay. I'm just gonna open the window quick. So. Whew, it's hot here. Hello, everybody. I'm so glad to be back. It's me, Zach. I'm here today to talk about the two semifinals of the Eurovision Song Contest 2019 in Tel Aviv, Israel. Kind of give some thoughts on those and sort of give some extra thoughts as well. But just to start out, because this is, it's been a year since last year, and I haven't really done anything on here since. If you remember, and you can tell by the scenery, I did move again. I moved into a studio apartment here in Chicago on the north side, actually not too far from downtown. You can see the skyline from my window, but I can't turn my monitor so you can't see it, but I can. And yep, I live alone now, and you can sort of see around. It's decorated. I got my panda and my koala back there, and then my little kitty calendar on the refrigerator. So yep, I live alone now, so I don't have to be as self-conscious about making these videos. But I am glad to be back. I didn't do uh, watches of the semifinals on here. I did watch them, but I had to watch them without being able to stream or anything. So I saw them, and I have some thoughts, and then I'm going to talk about some other stuff as well. So let's start out with semifinal number one. I guess, actually, before we get into that, this year has been a little bit of a different year for me in terms of the contest. Um, the songs were mostly really good, but for some reason I just wasn't as invested in the whole thing as I normally am. It's up until this point, like now that the contest is here, I'm back pretty much into the mood, but before it was sort of like I only had like a few songs that I was listening to on a consistent basis. So it was sort of a down year for me. And I think that contributed into me not requesting off work to live stream the semifinals. I didn't even videotape reactions to the qualifiers. It was like just a bit more of a chill year. I am going to do the grand final, I think. Um, because it's supposed to storm that day here in Chicago, and I'm not going to go anywhere. So I'm likely going to do the grand final. I just feel odd because I'll have to have like, I don't know if I'm allowed to have the audio of it in the background if I live stream it. Like, I never figured that out. But it's whatever. If I do it, it'll be like last year in 2017. And if anything, I will start one when the results start coming in, because I know that that's fine. Okay, so that's pretty much everything. Move, Chicago, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's start talking about semifinal number one. So, semifinal one was, as one of my favorite Eurovision vloggers, Alicia Michelle, called it, I think the semifinal of wild card, semifinal of uncertainty. And I have to agree. Going into it, I knew most of the favorites would be okay, but there were so many question marks that I didn't even make a prediction until like right before the um results came in. Like I posted one on my Twitter and I got 8 out of 10 of them right. But I'm just going to talk about some like general thoughts, some winners and losers for semifinal one really quickly. My favorite was Australia. I'm going to start with Australia because, wow, I've been a vehement supporter of Zero Gravity since they chose it. I thought their staging at the national selection was pretty good. Um, and I know that there was a lot of negative feedback because it beat the Electric Fields 2000 and whatever. And I did like 2000 and whatever, but at the same time, Australia's songs was so Eurovision that I completely understood why it won the jury and the televote. Kate's vocals in the national final were pitch perfect. The staging was pretty cool. Um, I loved the crown. I loved that they kept the crown. And it was just a really, really unique song with a really, really nice voice and performed with charisma and gusto to the extreme. So I was really happy when it won. And I've been a supporter of it from day one. When I saw, I avoid the little rehearsal clips that the Eurovision YouTube sends out because I want to see it in full for the first time because I think it adds to the appeal to the overall act if you don't know what to expect. Like, yeah, a lot of people keep national selection staging, or at least keep sort of the skeleton of it, if you will, like the general idea. And she did, but I hadn't seen any of the rehearsals. I'd heard the buzz about it, and I knew even if she kept the national selection staging, it would stand out. But I heard the buzz about it, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see this. And I saw it while I was watching semifinal one, and my mouth was on the floor the entire act, the entire song. I was just like, this is staged, and I don't say this lightly, absolutely perfectly. Perfectly. The camera angles are perfect. Her vocals are even more perfect than they were at the national selection, if that's even possible. The fact that she's up there with them, love it. I love that she's moving around. She's not static, which you get sometimes in an opera performance. Her dress is so much better. Like, I didn't really like the huge dress from the national selection. I thought it looked a little gaudy. This one looks incredible, especially with the lighting. The fact that there's two background dancers now is incredible. They look fantastic. They're dressed fantastic. And I'm saying this now. This has got to be one of the most innovative stagings I've ever seen at Eurovision. Ever. Like, the world at the bottom looks flawless. And when she hits that high note in the climax of the song and the earth starts pulling away and she shoots into space, it is just so gorgeous. And it's like, this is this is the new benchmark for what Eurovision staging can be. Like, I was a firm believer in not having the LEDs last year. I'll be the first one to admit that. But they're using the technology provided to them better than anyone ever has. Like, and I don't say that lightly. There have been stagings that I loved. Like, Eleni's staging last year used that stage like pretty much perfectly. But now that we're back to having some high tech elements, we're back to having the LEDs. And I was never not a fan of them, but I did appreciate the break. But now that they're back and we can see how they can be effectively used like this, I think it's gonna be a turning point for a lot of acts going into the future. Like, and I know this just sounds like a huge praise fest for Australia, but they deserve it. Kate Miller Heidke deserves all the praise being given to her. It is crazy how good this is. It is crazy how it is shot from down in the low teens in the odds to now second and still gaining traction. So I could ramble on about Australia this whole video, but I'm going to leave it at it is my favorite. It is my number one. I want it to win on Saturday. I think it has a very good shot of winning on Saturday. And I'm very excited to see how it does in the grand final. I think it won semifinal one. So Australia qualified, yay. Greece and Cyprus qualified. I liked both of them. Greece especially. She was serving those low notes perfectly, flawlessly. And then held the high note flawlessly. So it was like, wow, this is a little bit of duality going on. Go Katerin. So they qualified. I wanted Belarus to qualify, and I'm glad they did. She brought so much charisma to that performance. I'm very excited to see them in the final. Czech Republic, once I saw it on stage in the show, I knew it was going to qualify. They performed it really, really well. And I never disliked the song, but it just wasn't one of my favorites. But I can see why they're in the final. They earned their spot in the final. So that's 5. Slovenia made it. I really like Slovenia's song, so I'm happy they're there. Australia, Slovenia. I really should have had these written down, but this is kind of an impromptu live stream. There's Slovenia, Czech Republic, Greece. I'm gonna have to pull them up on my phone. Hold on. Okay, semifinal 1. I should probably Google Eurovision, not semifinal 1. They might not know what I'm talking about. Semifinal 1. God, these videos are so unprofessional. Okay, Serbia. I loved Serbia. Her vocals were pitch perfect. Perfect Balkan ballad. I'm glad that she's in the final after not qualifying back in 2013. She deserves it. Iceland. I love it. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Estonia, I get why it's in the final. I didn't want it there, but I get why it's there. It's harmless, really accessible pop. He sang it better than he has on the night, which was, I think, really important. The effects worked. I heard that they had trouble in the rehearsals, but then again, I didn't see any of the rehearsals. But it looked pretty okay on the night. It looked a tad bit fake-ish, but that's only because I'm judging it against Australia's like perfect visuals, so it's kind of a really, really high bar to pass for me now. But the thing that struck me was he seemed, I don't know how he is in real life. Like, he could be like really, really nice. But the performance, his facial expressions, combined with the camera choices that they used, almost made him come across narcissistic. And I just don't like narcissism, so I think I was turned off by that. So that brings us to everyone's shock qualifier, San Marino. I'm torn. Like the song I wanted to win Melfest, Lisa Ajax. I'm torn Because I'll start out with the bad and then go with the good. His vocal was not very good. Not very good, not very good. It wasn't the highest quality song in terms of artistic value, I would say. So, in that regard, I see why people are saying it usurped Portugal. Um, and yeah, like, and that vocal has no business in the final. Maybe he'll clean it up, but that vocal has no business in the final. From a critical thinking standpoint. On to the good. One, I'm glad they finally made another final because I feel like if they didn't this year, they were going to withdraw. Two, you just root for Sirhat. I don't know what it is, but he just has a very rootable personality. Like, you want him to do as well as he can. Like, he seems so nice and so fun and doesn't seem to be afraid to like laugh at himself, which I really appreciate. And you like seeing the small countries do good. You just do. It really brings home the idea that Eurovision can be a platform for everyone. Even a country that is smaller than the city I live in the United States. So I'm happy from a heartfelt, aw, this is so nice for San Marino way. Critically, I am confused as to how it made it. I'm interested to see where it ranked on both sides. So those were the qualifiers. The non-qualifiers quickly were Montenegro. They were never going to qualify. Finland, I never really got into it. He sounded okay, but I knew they weren't probably going to qualify. Poland was my biggest heartbreak non-qualifier for semi-1. I loved Poland's song. So I'm sad to see them go. They literally sounded like the studio cut, which is pretty incredible, and they looked really good. But they're gone. Hungary was probably my biggest shock, just because their pedigree suggested that they would make it. And it seems odd to me that this was the song that ended the streak. Yeah, it seems odd that this is the song that ended the streak, especially since just 2 years ago he gave them their first top 10 placing since 2014. They did good in 2014 with Andras, but he did really good for them. He got them to 200 points, and then now he broke their qualification streak. It's kind of a shock. But they're gone, so that's sad. Belgium I never got into, so I wasn't sad to see them go. Georgia improved based on their staging, but I knew they were never going to qualify. And then Portugal was both ways for me. I really liked the instrumental of the song. He sang it really uniquely. The stage show was dynamic to watch, the dancing and the movement. But at the same time, everyone knew this was an entry where there were people who really loved it, and there were people who didn't get it. And it seems like the people who didn't get it may have outnumbered the people that got it, although now people are saying there's this like voting controversy. They weren't able to vote for them. But I feel like we sort of get these claims every year. So I don't really know what to make of it. I don't think anything's going to come of it. But I was sort of shocked that they didn't qualify, but at the same time, I kind of get why they didn't qualify in retrospect. So that was semi 1. Now we'll move on to semi 2. That was today, or yesterday if you're in Europe. It's still only 9:40 p.m. here. So semi two will run down the qualifiers. I'm going in running order, not like announcement order or anything. Semi one I didn't because I didn't have my phone out, but this one I'm going in running order. So Switzerland, that makes sense. They were always going to qualify. Denmark was a guilty pleasure of mine. Um, and because it's Denmark, I think helped it, and the fact that a lot of the Nordics were in this semi probably helped it. But Leonore is through. Sweden always makes it. Malta, thank God, she sounded so good today. It looked so fun and so professional and colorful, like a chameleon. I'm turning my fan on. That's what that is because it's hot in Chicago today. Um, so yeah, Malta made it. Thank goodness. Her face when she qualified, she was just bawling, and it was so heartfelt and so honest and cute, and just I'm really happy for Michaela. Russia qualified. It's Sergey, so we knew that was bound to happen. Albania made it. I was so scared, but they pulled through. I'm so happy for Jonita. She's been in my top 5 since the song came out, and the revamp only upped it even more, and she sounded really good. And she's dressed really good. Like, I didn't like the way she was styled in the national selection, but she was styled super good today. So, props to Albania. Norway qualified. If I'm going to be honest, I thought they had the highest chance of being the favorite that didn't qualify, kind of. But they made it through, so they're there. It's fun, but I don't think it's gonna bother the top of the scoreboard that much. Netherlands, obviously, they're the favorite to win right now. North Macedonia made it. Macedonia is back in the final, and I'm so glad because if they didn't make it this year, I was 100% certain they were gonna say screw it and never come back again. And Tamara deserved it. Tamara's vocal was incredible today. They finally took their staging and pulled it back and didn't try to do something and then fail at it like they've done previously with really good songs that would have made the final if they would have been staged competently. They finally staged competently, and now they're back in the final. So, yay for them. And then Azerbaijan, which makes sense. It got a lot of traction these past few days. I didn't see the rehearsals, but I know that people were talking about it, and it looked really cool with, like, what was it, the robot arms and stuff. It just looked really futuristic and cool. So I'm not surprised they're in the final. And then the non-qualifiers were Armenia. I liked it, but I can see why it was an on the fence song. It probably came relatively close to qualifying in terms of placement, probably anywhere from 13th to 11th. Ireland didn't qualify. I thought the song was cute, but I never expected it to really do much in terms of score. And they were at the bottom of the odds the whole time. So Moldova didn't qualify. She sang it pretty decently. I heard she sounded better in the rehearsals, so I'm not sure. But and then they brought Ukraine Sand Artist, which was kind of cool. Like, I love Senia because she was actually recently on America's Got Talent: The Champions, which compiled a lot of fan favorite America's Got Talent and Got Talent alumni from other countries into one big show, and she got third, so she placed pretty high. And I really like her work ever since I saw her with Megan Newton. Latvia didn't qualify. No one really ever expected them to. It was one of the more forgettable songs for me. I kind of forgot about until they came on stage. Romania, I'm actually kind of surprised about. I really liked this song. And it was staged really well. Like, I liked the water staging. But it's not there, so there's really nothing we can do about it. Austria, I hate to say this, was probably my biggest letdown. I adore the studio cut of Limits. I find her voice so fragile and pretty in the studio cut, and I liked the flow of it. It did not transition to the stage effectively at all. I liked the glittering, like the black and then the glittering. I liked that. But she needed to wear something else, and I don't get how she sounded so good on the track. And then I don't know if it was her vocal choices or nerves or what, but she didn't sound that good on the night. And it was a really big letdown because if she would have sung this really good, I think more people would have latched onto it because I found it really accessible. But something must have happened and she didn't make the final, which is kind of sad because it was one of my favorite studio cuts this year. Um, Croatia didn't make it. I'm actually a bit shocked because they qualified with my friend relatively easily, actually. But this time they didn't. But whatever. And then Lithuania was never going to qualify, so they're gone. So those were the two semifinals. Now I guess I'll start by giving some general thoughts on the show and stuff. The stage looks very good. I'm When I saw the renderings of it, I knew it was gonna look pretty good. Like I was never worried about the stage this year, but it looks even better than I thought it was going to. Those triangles that can move from the ceiling down look fantastic. And I love how they show the country flag when the song is about to begin. That is very unique and really cool to look at. I love the postcards this year. I love the dancing. That's so fun to watch. And it really kind of gives a unique way of looking at the contestant's personality, which I really enjoy. The hosts are fine. I like Bar. Um, I think they have pretty good chemistry. Eurovision always has those corny jokes that are written into the script, so I've actually kind of learned to really appreciate them for what they are. And yeah, they're doing a competent job. They know really good English, so there haven't really been any fumbles. And the two Green Room hosts, I know his name is Ossie, and I think her name is Lucy. Yeah, Ossie and Lucy. If I'm getting her name wrong, I'm 99% sure it's Lucy. I have, well, they're listed right here. I don't know why I didn't look at this. I swear I watched these shows, you guys. Lucy, yeah, Ossie and Lucy. Their chemistry is really good. And I love that they can connect with the artists really nicely. So the hosts are good. The interval acts have been pretty good. I know Madonna is performing in the final. She finally signed the contract. I'm actually pretty excited about it. I know some people are like, ew, why is she here? But she's the queen of pop. Like, I don't understand why people are like, ew, don't come here. She's the best selling female artist of all time. So I'm excited to see her. I wish I know she's singing the new song with Quavo, Future. And that makes sense. Like, you want to promote your new album coming out. I wish her classic song would have either been Vogue or Hung Up. I think Hung Up would have been perfect because it has the ABBA sample. And they won Eurovision, and it was her biggest, like, European hit. Not recent, it came out in 2005, but it was a smash hit in Europe, I know that. So I kind of wish she would have gone with Hung Up, but I get why Like a Prayer, because it's like one of her magnum opus songs. So I'm excited to see her. Now I'm going to sort of go through the running order of the final and give some thoughts on that. And I think that'll be the end of it for anyone watching. Oh, Samuel, Australia must win. I agree. I agree. Um, it'll be interesting to see if anyone actually watches this. Okay, so I guess I'll just go through it and then concurrently say if I think it's like a good or a bad placing. Malta's opening, which makes sense because it's a really fun, upbeat, get ready to party song. It's a toss up because sometimes going first, they don't do well, and sometimes going first, they can easily make it into the top 10. And with Malta, it's a toss up because they qualified, like, so obviously they scored pretty well. But at the same time, you had Ira Lasco back in 2016. I think she got fourth with the juries, and then near the bottom in the televotes. So it's like, is Malta finally going to break their televote not like it curse that they seem to have had for a long time now? Or was it like the opposite? Did the televoters really like it and the jury might rate it low? You don't really know, but I get why it's opening, and I think people are being a little hasty when they're like, oh, they just killed Malta's chances of doing well. Because, like, oh, who opened last year? I can't remember. I know in 2016, Belgium opened with What's the Pressure, and they got into the top 10. So it's not impossible. And Malta's song is really, really good. So I'm inclined to believe it's not a death sentence for them. Albania's second. She got the death slot, which leads me to believe she might have been on the lower end of the qualifications in semi 2. I'm rooting for her, but you never know where it's going to end up, especially in slot number 2. Czech Republic is third, which means they probably came in the middle of semi 1's results. Yeah, we'll see how they do. Germany's fourth. Probably not going to do that well. Russia is fifth. I don't know if that leads me to believe that he didn't do as well in the semi as everyone thought he would. He might not have, since it's so stacked up. But I don't think he'll win. I don't think he's gonna win. Sorry, I'm getting kind of tired. I don't think he's gonna win. So we'll see where it ends up. Denmark is sixth. Probably mid-table, lower end. San Marino is seventh. They're there. Not gonna do probably. It might not be in the bottom 5, but I don't see it coming higher than like 15th. Yeah, if that. North Macedonia is 8th, followed by Sweden at 9. North Macedonia is a toss-up. I think the jury is going to really like it. The televote, we'll have to see. But I'm just so happy they're there. They're so happy they're there. So I don't really think final result is that big of a thing for them. It'd be cool to see them get a new best placing. I love it when countries get their best placing. So it'd be cool if she got higher than 12th, which is what got in 2006. So Sweden being in place 9 has me conflicted on whether it's a good spot, because he's between Slovenia and North Macedonia, which are both slower songs, and his is really soulful and upbeat, especially with those amazing backing singers. So I'm inclined to believe it's more of a good slot, but at the same time, with Krister Bjorkman doing the list, it's odd that they're not near the end of the first half. Well, closer, because they're only like 5 slots away, but still. Um, he always likes to put them in a prime spot, so maybe it's a prime spot, I'm not sure. Slovenia's 10th, and Cyprus follows them, so they'll probably do usually where Slovenia does on the right hand side. Cyprus. Here's where it gets complicated. We have Cyprus in 11, Netherlands in 12, and Greece in 13. So we have a big fan favorite. It's not really a favorite to win anymore, but it's a really big fans love it because she's a diva and it's a really catchy song and I like the song. So we have her. Then we have Duncan, the favorite to win. And then we have Greece, another big fan favorite. So I don't know if this is good or bad for any of them. It's probably more on the unfortunate side for Cyprus because Netherlands comes on, and even like I really, really, really like the Netherlands. I wouldn't mind if they won. It'd be kind of cool to see them win since 1975. But then you have Greece, and she's doing really, really good staging that leaves an impact. So is that going to make people forget about Duncan, whose staging is really pretty to look at in terms of color, but is sort of stripped down compared to Cyprus's dancing and Greece's avant-garde? I'm not really sure, but I guess we're going to see. It's kind of odd to me that they didn't try to give Netherlands slot 13 so that he was last in the first half. But maybe slot 12 is better. Like, I'm so confused about this because I don't know which way it's going to go. Is Cyprus going to be woohoo? And then Netherlands comes on, but people are still thinking about Cyprus? Is it going to be Cyprus does it, Netherlands comes on, people are so moved that they forget about Cyprus? Or is it going to be something with Cyprus, Netherlands comes on, does really good, and then Greece comes on, sings it pretty flawlessly, and has a really unique avant-garde looking performance that people will remember. And then they might be like, oh yeah, Netherlands was there, and might vote for Caterin over, like, there's so many ways it can go. Like, it's interesting that two really big fan favorites, I don't want to say fan wank, but I think Cyprus might be a little more fan wank than Greece. But the two big fan favorite divas are sandwiching the favorite. It's an interesting choice for me. Israel's 14, they're the home country. They'll come on the right-hand side. I wanted Katreya because I thought her vocals were perfect, but they chose Kobe. Norway is 15. Leads me to believe they probably came middle of their of the top 10 in their semi. Goodness, I'm tired. UK is 16, followed by Iceland. UK is screwed. Sorry, that's just the way it is. Iceland is in slot 17, which was Lorene's slot. They probably did a pretty good, maybe top 4, top 3 in their semi. Never count out such an out there song. I appreciate it. I'd probably give it a vote or two if I could, just because it's out there, it's risky, it's cool to look at. The way they stage it is really dynamic and cool to look at. I love Iceland for being like, you know what? 2016 and 2017, we sent songs that had business in the final. Yeah, we misstepped last year, but this year, screw it. Screw you. We're sending BDSM, screamo, disco pop, and we're gonna push the EBU's boundaries to their breaking point, and I admire their gusto. And I don't think I'd ever listen to this song with an earshot of anyone I know, but it's unique. So good on you. Estonia's after them. No one's really going to remember. They're going to be thinking about Iceland. Belarus is 19, but Azerbaijan follows her. So I'm thinking it might be a little bit of a disadvantage, but she has so much charisma that it might work in her favor. And I personally prefer it to Azerbaijan, so we'll see. Azerbaijan being 20th leads me to believe he was on the upper end of his semifinals qualification list. France is 21. France had a huge surge. I never watched the Big Six. I don't vote, so I don't think this whole try to get the Big Six more notice thing applies to me, really, since I can't help them out anyway. But France really shot up. They've since dropped back down to ninth, but I've heard that people really like their staging, so I'm interested to see what it is. And they've been given a pretty good spot, so there must be some confidence. Italy's spot 22, so they're another one of the big, they probably have a shot to win people, but he's not doing that super well in the odds, so I'm interested to see how they do, but Italy usually does really good. Serbia is right before Switzerland, so unfortunately I think Nevena might lose some remembrance because of that. Switzerland's in spot 24, but then you have Australia, and Spain closes it. Spain's not winning, so I'm just gonna, they close it. Yay, party. Australia is in spot number 25, which, as you remember last year, was where Eleni was. And here's where I think it gets interesting. Netherlands is sandwiched in between two fan favorites that people seem to really like. Australia is following one of the male favorites, but she's so close to the end where she has that benefit of being the thing that people remember right at the end. Yeah, Spain's after her, but you're really not going to remember Spain. Sorry, Spain. I am probably in no good graces with Spanish fans after what I said about Almaya last year, but she's got the best staging. I'm going to say it right now, the best vocal, at least in her way. Like, I don't really like comparing vocal because you have people who can sing the Balkan ballad like Nevena and sound pitch perfect, but then you have Kate who can sing popra and sound pitch perfect. They're like apples and oranges. But you have Kate's pitch perfect vocals. Beautiful to look at, perfect staging. An upswell of fan support now that she's second in the odds and still shortening. And now she's pretty much almost closing the show. I don't want to be presumptuous, because with Eurovision that is always tricky. But this momentum that she has now that we've seen the staging, I visualize it winning. Like, I said this in my videos last year. When I'm listening to the songs, before they even get performed, I can visualize them in my head in their winning performance. Some of them. From the studio cuts, Australia was always one of my potential winners, just because it's like the epitome of a Eurovision song. Netherlands, just because it's quality, it's high quality. I've never really saw Switzerland and Italy as potential winners, so I'm not going to talk about them. Greece, when it came out, was another one. They've sort of tapered off a tiny bit. Netherlands is still pretty high in first. But I've got to be honest, his stage show left a little to be desired for me. Like, it was gorgeous in terms of color. He sounded pretty fine. But there was something about it that didn't scream runaway winner for me. Like Loreen did. Or like, well, I'm not even going to say Jamala because she wasn't a runaway. Like Portugal did. Like, his is nice, and if it wins, it's not undeserved. But when you watch Australia, and you get to that climax, and I know there have been comparisons with Elena last year, but that was more traditional sounding. I don't even want to call that popera, because it was grand, it was spectacular, and it was traditional. She didn't move, and she sounded like a prima donna in a good way. This Kate's song has a really good beat. You hear the crowd clapping along after the first I'm free, oh, and then hey you, and you hear the crowd clapping, lock with no key, and they're cheering for her practically the whole song. It just, I'm worried about the televote. You're right, they don't have a very good televote, but this song, it says a lot that it shot up in the odds so quickly. Like, I know sometimes the odds aren't right, but they're usually in the right direction. Like, Cyprus was the favorite to win in the odds, and then Israel won. But Israel was second. So they're never super far off in terms of final result, at least when it comes to sort of the top of the leaderboard. But then again, Sweden was kind of high, and then they flopped in the televote. But there have also been a very high number of people who didn't like the song, who I've seen on the video comment that they've been swayed, that they don't like the song, but the staging's incredible, things like that. And then there are people who are like, oh, it looks too much like a music video, blah, 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 but I don't listen to them. But there's just this sense when you watch the stage show, you hear the fan reaction in the crowd. It's got that spark where you're watching it and you're like, this could do it. This could be the one. If you know what I mean. Like, I could spend hours talking about why I love Australia so much this year, but as it stands right now, I don't want to. I want to say this because I love it, but I don't want to say this because it's going to get my hopes up. With the Netherlands all the way up in place 12, sandwiched between Cyprus and then Greece, he is her biggest competition. I think she can. I think she'll do it. I'm. I'm. I'm gonna put it out there. I think Australia will win. It has the spark. It's gorgeous. It's the new benchmark for high-tech staging, in my opinion. It's just a matter of, did it win over enough people with this staging to win out over the Netherlands already their support? So that'll be the big sort of dynamic to see. And then you can never count out an outlier. If there's going to be an outlier victory, you can never count out Sweden swooping in from like third and third somehow. Like, meh. I don't know if I'd want Too Late for Love to win, but you can never count out Sweden scoring competently enough to swoop up. But now we've seen that they can flop too, so it's sort of a weird juxtaposition. Everyone thinks Italy has this really big shot. I don't see it, but who knows? Azerbaijan's fallen enough where I don't really see them having a huge shot anymore. If I have to think of an outlier that might be a shock victory, not in any way positive or negative, but just like, oh wow, that sort of came out of left field. I think it'd have to be Iceland. Like, they're rising in the odds. And it's one. I don't want to say it gives me Hard Rock Hallelujah vibes, because I love Hard Rock Hallelujah. But Hard Rock Hallelujah was such a tradition breaker because you had, oh my god, Surtab. Well, first you had Marie N. I wanna be the sunshine in your eyes. Then you had Surtab, Every Way That I Can. Then you had Ruslana, Wild Dances. And then you had Helena Paparizou, my number one. 4 women, 4 upbeat, ethnic-sounding dance tracks. And then this hard metal rock band from a Scandinavian country swoops in and takes the victory. Now, we haven't had a string of female ethnic pop hits lately, but we have a Scandinavian band swooping in with a metal sex pop song. I think they are a chance of being that shock outlier winner, but we'll have to see. So I think that's everything. I apologize for it being a very unprofessional, unpolished video, but I sort of think that's what people have come to expect. But I think Iceland may surprise with televoters being very high, but juries are very conservative in the past couple of years. That is true. Finland won in a year where it was all televote, so that does add in a different factor. So that is true. But they scored high enough with They either scored so high in the televote that no jury vote in the semifinal could negate them from qualifying, but the fact that they got Laureen's 17 sweet spot leads me to believe that they had a high enough televote and at least a decent enough jury vote to score in the upper parts of the semifinal. But unpolished is cool, but oh, well, thank you. I think it sort of adds to the charm of my little videos. But that's everything. 99% chance I'll probably try to live stream the final. Um if anything, I'm gonna live stream watching the results. But since it's supposed to thunderstorm on Saturday, I'm not going anywhere anyway. So I might just be like, okay, 4 straight hours, why not? But that's this video. I hope the few people who've watched enjoyed. But it is now 10:18 and I have to go to work tomorrow, so I'm going to sign off and I will see you all on Saturday. I hope you enjoyed, and always feel free to leave a comment and chat it up, and we will see you at the grand final. Go Australia! Mwah.